Hello and welcome in to Intercollegiate Conversations.
The main reason, or certainly a big reason why I reached out to you to begin with to talk to you and hear about your stories, because I think it's pretty interesting in your journey to become now a head coach there at Nicholls for softball. So let's first start, I guess, with you in your words. Tell me about your journey. You're a baseball player yourself. How
Yep.
did you go from playing college baseball to now being a head softball coach? What's that journey been like for you?
So the most interesting part of it was that I started coaching baseball, and then it was difficult if I had any advice to any young coaches, GAs, young volunteers, or student assistants. It's a little difficult coaching players that you just finished playing with, and for me, it was tough. So that I did it for a few years, and then I kind of got out of it just because of the relationships and everything, and it became tough to make decisions. You become the basically somewhat of a boss for your teammates. That you just played with and hung out with and worked out with and everything. So it was a difficult time, but really just going through that I kinda didn't think I wanted to coach anymore, but I got out of it for a year. I did some travel ball stuff, and then I got into sports turf management actually, in, Montgomery, with a company based out of Birmingham, especially Turf Supply. So that kinda kept me around the game. We took care of all the fields at Alabama State. We lost the contract down there, then I moved up to Birmingham, and my main, I would say complex was, Sanford University. And there at Sanford, I did took care of all basically all the athletic fields, but I did all the game day operations for softball. And by doing that, I was around softball a lot. And it was very similar to baseball. And now I'm actually like working. So I'm like my time and schedule was based off of the games and practices and all that stuff. So by doing that, doing game days, they had Alabama come down, they had Auburn come down, all these big universities and being around that stuff. But the really cool thing was I learned is how much shorter it was compared to baseball, like time wise. And I was like, man, it's just like coaching baseball and being around baseball and playing baseball, but it's shorter. I was like, wow, it can't beat that. So, um, one of the coaches that was at Alabama State, she went out and got a job at Vernon. I went out there and started helping her, doing softball again. And from there, we basically took that program and turned it around from think, 8-win program. And then it was like 17, 29. Then COVID happened, and then that year after COVID, we were 42 and something. So we really did some really great things there. That COVID year, we probably had a really good chance to win a national title. When COVID hit, we were, I think, 22, 23, and 1. And during that time, like we had played 2 top ranked teams in the country. Did really, really well. Had some really good kids on our team. One of our best players ended up going to the University of Florida. So it was really a cool experience, coaching softball and really making that transition over. Um, but I think the biggest thing with the transition was just seeing that, like, again, the game and the time that spent, it was faster, so that made it a lot cooler and a lot more enjoyable. Though not saying I don't love baseball still, I still watch it every day. I'm a huge Braves fan from being from Atlanta, but it was just a different game, you know what I mean, as far as pace. And, anything we do in life is, especially me growing up in the big city, I was a fast-paced guy, so that always made it more interesting to me. So, you know, uh, lucky to get the shot to be able to coach at Vernon when I did, and leaving there was tough, after building it up how we did and having great relationships with those kids. But my former head coach here, Justin, really gave me an opportunity to come in and do some great things here, and that's what we've accomplished in this short period of time. And it was just bringing in the right people, players, parents. The administration here is amazing. They've supported us in every way they could, with us being one of the lowest funded schools in the conference. We've still been able to accomplish a lot, and they're still steadily investing. We got brand new cages. We got a $3 million building coming that's softball only. That's going to have everything in it, from coach's office, his team room, locker room, um, the umpire rooms, a training room, a lounge. It's going to be awesome. So looking forward to that, man. But it's been a cool journey just going through it all. And, I think the biggest thing is at Vernon, I started off as a volunteer for the first 2, 3 years. Like I wasn't making anything. but I was grinding it out, trying to help. I seen the end goal of where it could be and where I could be in my career.
Yeah, which is what's interesting. I want to ask you about that. For those coaches out there that are trying to break in, I mean, how important is it just to take really like any opportunity you can get? You were a volunteer, like you said. Now,
Yep.
just what, a decade later, you're a head coach. Granted, softball, but still Division I, right? Softball program.
Yep.
How important is it for those that want to get into coaching to just take an opportunity, even if it's not highly paid or if it's a lot of
Yep.
work, just to be able to get their foot in the door? How important is that?
You got to say yes to opportunity, because you never know what opportunity may or may not be the best one for you. And that's anything in life, though. I'm big with my faith. I believe that you gotta have some values and morals and stand on things that really, really are important. And the biggest part of that is understanding that, you're not alone on this journey that you're on. And you're gonna have to take some risk and step into some unknown territory, but ultimately, what do you want out of it? And why are you doing it? I was never really doing it for the money. I was doing it for the relationships, the people, and the opportunities, and I always, like I say yes to opportunity. And if you're a young person trying to get into it or an older person want to get into coaching, just say yes to opportunity, because the more people see you say yes and to see you work hard and you grind them regardless of the circumstances, the budgets, that's when people start to say, okay, hey, this person may be special, and that's when more opportunities come. But you have to say yes to that first opportunity that may or may not be the prettiest or the sexiest or the best or with the facilities and everything like that. But it's all what you make it, and that's what I look at when I think about opportunities is you make it into what you want it to be, right? And it's all about the environment, the people, how you treat people, especially the players. They come first for me, always. I always want them to understand that I'm in their corner, that regardless of the circumstances, I'm gonna have their back and I'm gonna try to help them through anything that they're going through, because at the end of the day, the young people still trying to learn and grow.
I want to ask you about making the move over to softball. I mean, you touched on that, but I think there's like this negative connotation that, oh, I'm a baseball coach and
Mhm.
softball's a different sport and I'm going to stick to baseball. We see it a lot even with basketball, where you coach
Mhm.
men's basketball. You view women's basketball as like a completely different thing.
Yeah.
So what was that transition like for you to go over to softball? And I guess also two-part question, like what would you say to coaches out there that are maybe baseball coaches, but hey, there might be a better opportunity to go coach softball. Even though
Yeah.
it is a different sport, it's still
Yeah.
in that, that it's similar enough.
Yeah.
What was that transition like for you? And then I guess, like I said, what would your advice be to another coach that may be considering a similar move like that?
Yeah. So coming over to softball, I asked a bunch of guys that came over from baseball before me, and I think the biggest thing is a lot of guys that play fast pitch that were baseball guys, and and even a lot of the female coaches that hire male coaches that respect them and know that they come in with the right values, and they're not coming in it with a bunch of ego. I will say that. Don't come into the softball world thinking, "Oh, this is the way, that's the way." Like, you have to come into it with an open mind with anything that you do. The transition really was just to coach them hard, and really understand that you got to love them really, really even harder, especially the female athlete. You know what I mean? Just it's really about that relationship. You know what I mean? For me, I think that's the where I draw the line is like there really isn't a difference, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with people. Yeah, that's some physical and movement differences based maybe, but hey, I think there's some girls out here that they'd be really good baseball players too. You know what I mean? Now, does it ultimately boil down to me wanting to coach baseball over softball or wanting to coach softball over baseball? I don't think so. I think this is the calling that God put upon me, was to come do softball. You know what I mean? And I think the biggest difference for me is that you're just dealing with male athletes and you're dealing with female athletes. I'll tell you, any coaches that have coached both, there are some differences in that part of it. But at the end of the day, you're dealing with student athletes. You know what I mean? They all want to be loved. They all want to be coached hard, but in the right way. And you just got to do what you think is best, and do it with the right morals and values supporting that, whatever you decide to do.
Yeah, I once had a former basketball coach say that just simply coaching is coaching. And if you
Yes.
could coach at the middle school level, you could coach at
Yep.
the high school, college level, so on. And so I'm sure it's
Yep.
the same, baseball, softball, like it's still the same principles of
Yes.
coaching.
Yes,
Yeah,
the coaching part is all the same, man. Like I said, it's just really understanding coaching female athletes versus coaching male athletes. That's to me, that's the biggest difference. But coaching the game, catching, throwing, all that stuff, hitting, all that stuff is kind of the same, I think.
right,
Just
right, right.
faster pace.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Running through some of these stock questions, this one might not directly apply to you because you did switch baseball, softball, you got out of the industry for a couple years. But the question is, from when you first began, when you were that volunteer assistant to where you are now,
Mhm,
how much have you seen? Have you seen a lot of change in the industry? I'm not talking about like obviously name, image, and likeness, conference
mhm,
realignment. I'm not talking about that side of college sports, but more so the
mhm.
coaching side. Have you seen a lot of change? Is coaching the industry, the hiring, the responsibilities, is that really different today than when you first started, or has it kind of remained the same over the past decade?
Um, this may be a off the wall answer, but I kind of don't pay attention to that. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously there are trends in the style and the way you coach things, but I feel like the game is still the game. You know what I mean? And I've always been a big believer of some a coach may do it this way, and they've done it that way for 10, 15 years. And if they've had success doing it that way, how can you tell them that is wrong? Right. And obviously, with the day and age of social media and the climate that we're in now, with the access to information and having a cell phone with the smartphone, which I think was the greatest and the worst invention for mankind. But it's like you get so much access to information that you can have all these different views on how it's supposed to look and what it may look like or what this person may think or what they may think. But again, ultimately, like I've always felt like if somebody does it one way and they've had success doing it that way, like how could you ever tell them that was wrong if you're even if you do it total opposite? You know what I mean? But that's what I think makes sports so great anyway, right? It's a bunch of different individuals coming together for a collective, goal that in itself allows for different perspectives and different ways of teaching and coaching for it all to be different. You know what I mean? I think that's in sports in general is always going to be that way. You're going to always have the new young innovative coach going up against the old coach that has been in the game forever. You know what I mean? Like I think that those things and those principles are still there. If you want to get like more detailed about it, I think it'll be the launch angle swing or, you know, people playing defense a certain kind of way with shifts and stuff like that. Like those are probably kind of the two things that I would say I've noticed. Because like I said, I try not to pay attention to all the trends and try to do it the way I think is gonna make us successful. And again, which is loving on the kids first in the right way and having a great staff. But those two things, the launch angle swing and the shifts are the two things that I've noticed that have kind of changed since I've gotten into it.
Let me put you on the spot with a couple of these that might require some time to sit down and think. But what would you tell yourself, your 21-year-old self coming out of college, getting into coaching that first time as the volunteer, or maybe
Yep.
even just advice to somebody currently now coming out of college wanting to get into coaching? What would be something that you wish you knew then that you know now that would have made things a lot easier back then?
Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to have conversations with the coaches that are way up there or the coaches that you think are too good for you to even have a conversation with. You hear people say that a lot, but at that age when you're new, you're fresh out, like you're nervous. I mean, that's just humans in general. Like anything that's new is unknown. So you're gonna be nervous about it. You're gonna have those anxieties and those feelings that like, wow, like I'm not ready. You know what I mean? And I think the biggest thing for me then was like being surrounded with the staff at Alabama State, those coaches, Mervell, Jose and Drew, Matt, like those guys really, really opened my eyes to like having a mindset that we're on the equal playing field with everybody. And like when they came to Alabama State, they did some amazing things and we went down and beat Miami and beat Auburn and played all these big time schools and did all these great things. But it was because they always had the mindset that we're always equal, right? Once we step on that field, that on the game decides the game, not the name on the jersey and all that stuff. Like you still got to go out there and play. So I would tell any young person coming into it, you have to have that mindset for you. Like I'm on the equal playing field as everybody else, and they had to earn it the same way you have to earn it. So it's all about respect. understanding that, it's a grind and understand that nothing's gonna be given to you. And the more you have that mindset to go out and grind and work for it, you'll end up where you want to be.
Best piece of advice you think you've ever been given?
Ooh, the best piece of advice I ever been given, I think, is trust. Really, really, really understanding trust with your student athletes and your staff. It was a great analogy. Like guy, like the sheriff's name, Rodney DeLong, gave me when I took the job, and I asked him, I was like, "What's one of the big things you would say is important?" And he said, "Trust." He's like, think about it like this: you have a full bucket of water, right? And once you dump it out, and that's losing the staff or whoever the players are losing trust in it, it takes one drop at a time to fill it back up. So understanding that and kind of thinking about that concept is like you really have to have that trust in your players and your staff, your parents, anybody involved with your program to know that trust is very important in any relationship because this is a relationship game that we play, sports in general. Like it's all about our relationships because if you don't have great relationships, it doesn't really matter how talented you are because that's going to overtake that. You know what I mean? Because the game's going to stop. We play and practice for a short amount of time, but all the time spent outside of the field and in the classroom, that's almost more important. You know what I mean? Because now you get to create that family environment. So I would say trust, and I would like to credit that Rodney DeLong at UNT.
Yeah, I like that. And speaking of relationships, you talk about relationships with the coach and the athletes and the players. What about for a coach within the industry? Like, how important is networking and the relationships for a coach that obviously all coaches, you guys always want to continue to move up the ladder
Yes,
throughout your
yes.
career. So how important are that networking and relationships throughout the industry?
No, they're huge. They're very, 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 very important. But I would like to say before the relationship piece is you have to be a good human and you have to be somebody that brings value to the table. And that has and a lot of that is based off your hard work, the grinding, them seeing you out recruiting, them seeing you at camps working hard, them seeing you, building those relationships with the travel ball coaches and the players and them seeing that you bring value to them. You know what I mean? In any relationship, you have to bring something to the table, right? We like the best analogy I like to say is that before you get into any relationship, you got to know who you are and got to have your strengths and know what you bring to the table. So once you can figure those things out and then take the next step of trying to network and do all these great things and meet all these people, then if people know you by, hey, this person's a hard worker, hey, they have great relationships within the travel ball world, hey, this person, the kids love them, hey, this person is great at coaching hitting, or this person is great at coaching fielding, like you bringing value. So now your network is able to grow faster or bigger because people know you bring the right principles and the right values to them. You know what I mean? I think that's the part about networking that I don't think gets talked about enough. It's cool to know a bunch of people, but like if they know of you in bad ways, then that's not a good thing. So your networking won't be great. You know what I mean?
For
Yeah.
you, what would you say are the most important traits that have allowed you to get to where you are and have allowed you to be as successful as you have been in coaching?
The relationships, man. I was raised by two amazing people that aren't on this earth today, but my mom and my dad really, 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 really seeing them first, their relationship, and then second, how they treated people, how they never talked down on people, how they put values in me that to this day hold strong because of they were doing things the right way by others. They treated others how they wanted to be treated. You know what I mean? And they always told me that n- we're all equal. Nobody's better than nobody, regardless of how much money they have, how much money they don't have. Like, treat the person that you think does the worst job the same way you would treat the person that has the best job. And I think that really, really is who I am. I think a big reason why I was even able to have the opportunity I am now where I'm at now at Nicholls as the head coach is because of that's what I value most is those relationships and treating people how they deserve to be treated, regardless of what they've done, what they've said. Like we all deserve a fair shot at life and to be treated how we think we should be treated, and how I want anybody to treat my son. Now I'm a new father, I'm a new husband. Like looking at my son now, and I think about my kids now, like when my son goes off to college, if he decides to go play or do whatever, anybody that's involved in his life, I know how I want them to treat him. So why would I treat anybody else's kid differently? Based off anything they may have done or said. Like, let's get the facts and see these. We're still dealing with young people that are developing and trying to become something in life. And just because they make a mistake or say something wrong, let's not completely write them off right away until we get the facts and get to know the details of the situation and the whys of everything. Because as you men, you both know, we grow up, we go through things in life, and that kind of shapes who we are. And a lot of times we don't have a control in those things, right? Because we were young. We didn't. Our parents made decisions and did things a certain kind of way, or whoever raised us, or was around us, or an environment that we were in, that kind of shaped us to who we are today. And a lot of times, a lot of kids, I feel like, get bad raps because of who they are and how they act and what they do. But we can't blame them a lot of times, because then when we start to blame game just on them, then we don't try to get down to the core of the issue of who they are as a human. You know what I mean? And really try to help them through some things versus just write them off. So I think that's for me where I am. The most thing that I'm proud of, and it's just that I'm all about the people, man, and the relationships, and trying to help young people become who they want to be and accomplish things they never thought they could accomplish.
And what you said there also probably plays into the answer to the next question, but two last quick ones. You got out of coaching, you got back in it. Did you always have that passion? Was that passion always in you, that you knew it was coaching for you and working with these, young adults, and helping to make these people into better adults moving forward and everything?
I think so. I think so. I think God's really been working on me in my life. I've experienced a lot of different things at a young age. Like I said, losing my parents, grandparents, close friends. And I think going through all of that stuff really, really played a huge role in me choosing to go back into coaching, was just seeing the impact that you could have on other humans based off your experiences that you've been through. And I even just from my playing career alone, like I went through the ups and downs of my playing career, and dealing with being one of the top prospects to getting injured and not ending up at the school that I thought I would go to, and playing with some of the best players in the world, from first overall draft picks to MLB guys, like just going through all the experiences I think in my life have really showed me that coaching was the way for me, just because of the impact that I could have on other individuals on a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what coaching is. It's not just a sport that we play, it's really about the impact that you have on others around you, especially when you're in that head coaching role. Like that's the most important thing, is that impact you have on them, how you make them feel on a daily basis, what they're thinking of, like how they're feeling, what they're thinking, like do they believe in themselves, do they not believe in themselves, do they believe in you, do they not believe in you, like just understanding them that life is about people and relationships, and if you can figure out how to navigate that the right way by staying true to you and having them stand true to them with the right values and principles, I think that's coaching for me.
So my
Yes.
question would just be for you, having gone through this industry, as a college coach, how valuable do you see value in a job board for coaches, or is it a lot more of the relationships and knowing people? Do you see, value in a job board being out there for people in college athletics to try to, get coaching jobs and move up the ranks?
No, I think a job board is very, very important, because it opens your eyes to opportunities that you don't even know there's there. You know what I mean? Going through jobs and trying to figure out what job may be right for you, you can kind of broaden your horizon with a job board of, you may not want to just stay in your hometown or close to your hometown or within a certain mile radius. And if you don't know about this job, if you're from Atlanta that's in California, like you probably wouldn't hear about a job in California without a job board, unless you have that big network, you know what I mean? But even still, jobs come open so fast and so often that it's just so many moving pieces that you may not have the chance to talk to somebody that may know about that job, but it may be already be on the job board. You know what I mean? So I think it's really, really important having that involved in the process of trying to pick the right fit for you and your family and a situation that, you think is going to make you better and allow you to grow as a human. Um, it's just one of those things I think is definitely an integral part of all of that for sure.